Hi children, wishing you a very good day. This is your ICT sir. Welcome back. Today I am going to teach you about in Excel about cell references. As you are aware of, there are two types of cell references in Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. They are called relative cell references and absolute cell references. Now, what in this picture, what I am showing you here, I have mentioned two columns, A and B, and the row, the first row, these A1 and B1 are being added. And these kinds of cell references are known as relative cell references, relative to each other. AB or AC, informations from A is added to the informations of B and shown in another cell, maybe in C1, the information is added. The next cell references, this is the column relative cell references. This is the row relative cell references. Whereas it is not now columns, it is rows. It is A1 plus B1, so forth. So next time it will be maybe A1 plus B1 or A1 plus A3, so forth. This picture is all about relative. Now relative, when it comes to relative, relatives only add with its neighbor or with its associated column, A, B, C, so forth. But there is another cell references where it is known as absolute cell references. Now, there are four types of absolute cell references. One is known as absolute column and an absolute row references. It indicates a dollar sign before A, a dollar sign before 1. So this becomes an absolute cell, an absolute column as well as an absolute row. The next cell reference is, here the example is shown here, absolute column and absolute row reference. The next is relative column, a relative column, and an absolute row reference. So if you find the dollar sign after the letter A, then it is a relative column and an absolute row reference. It's referring to the row. Next is, if you find the dollar sign before A, it is referring to an absolute column with a relative row reference. The relative row reference. The next is absolute cell reference with a relative cell reference, where you find an absolute cell. Here you are, there's an absolute cell with a relative cell reference. So it's understood very clearly. Here the picture shows you how if you find a dollar sign before the column and if you find a dollar sign before the row, then it is completely an absolute cell. Here it is after the column A, and so this is absolute row. It's absolute row reference, not column. Next, if you find A in front, let's put this A in here, then this is absolute column with a row reference. So it's absolute. So you must remember, if you find a dollar mark before the column, that is the column absolute. And then if you find both column and the row is absolute and with a non-absolute or a relative cell, it looks like this. Okay, now let's move on. When you are doing calculations in an Excel, there are two types of calculations which you can perform in Excel. They are known as functions and formulas. Now, most of the children have asked me what is the difference between a function and a formula. Here it says here, a formula is an expression which calculates the value of a cell. It's your expression. Maybe if you want to know what is the average of a given subjects, you might end up with adding the total marks and dividing by its number of subjects, you get the average. That is a formula. But a function are predefined formulas. They are formulas too, but it is predefined and it's already ready for you to use. So rather than you using a formula, you can use a function like average, the function average, to find easily the average of a given subjects.